Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the road to GM. I'm currently in Madrid, Spain, and in this episode, I will be covering my second round game of the Madrid Chess Festival. My opponent is named Pepe Cuenca. His full name is Jose Cuenca, or I believe Jose Fernando Cuenca Jimenez, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a very popular commentator, very popular grandmaster. And his nickname is Pepe Cuenca. His rating is 2,498. In the first round of this tournament, I defeated Grandmaster Tomas Sosa with a rating of 2535. And that game was really, really special. And I talked about it in that recap. This round, I'm again playing with the black pieces, and I'm going to take you through the game. Now, a very quick thing. In the past, I would upload a recap immediately after my game was done. I'm not doing that anymore to preserve energy and play my best chess. What I will do is I will be uploading, and I have been uploading, a bunch of behind-the-scenes training footage, but also previews of future recaps onto the Patreon before I put them out on YouTube. So over 600 of you at this point have subscribed to the Patreon. Thank you very much. And remember, during the days of this tournament, if you have a Chessly account on my educational platform, Chessly, you can participate in our community challenge. And all you got to do is just log in and do a couple of daily study tasks, and you'll contribute to the leaderboard, and then you will unlock some pretty awesome rewards. So that's all on you. It's only for the days of the event. Log in, do a couple of exercises. If you want to, check out the Patreon. And here we go with round number 2. So in this round, I didn't do a crazy amount of prep because Pepe can play a lot of different stuff like d4, like knight f3. He's a more positional player. So before this game, I was a bit worried. I reviewed like some London lines, and then I showed up and he went c4. The good news about c4 is that if you're going to play the Queen's Gambit declined, it doesn't really stop you. You just play e6, d5. So that's actually why after the first couple of moves, he just went back to playing d4. The only alternative he could have played is knight c3 and then maybe e3 without committing to d4. But he only plays knight f3. Like I looked at Pepe's games and he never plays knight c3. He always tries to play something that could potentially become a Catalan. And so before the game, I had prepared the a6 Queen's Gambit declined. The idea is I want to take on c4, and I want to defend with b5. And I didn't know what he was going to play here, but my idea was we're going to play this opening. I haven't played this much over the board, so there's no way he could have prepared it. I'm not even sure he did prepare, but I did see he played a couple games of bishop g5. This kind of takes the sting out of a6. It's the best move. And basically, black goes bishop e7, you trade, white defends the pawn like this instead of putting the knight on c3, and all engines say that regardless of how white develops, white will just get a very easy, simple game. And I did not want an easy, simple game because that's his style. So before the game, I decided if he plays bishop g5, I'm going to play knight f6. He's going to go here, and now this is a very unique queen's pawn position. We're going to see what happens. So I took on c4. He brought out his bishop, and I played c5, attacking his center, and then I took. And my notes here were after pawn takes, we actually transposed to a variation I've been playing a lot online recently in Title Tuesday. This is the Queen's Gambit accepted, where black takes on d4. So you get to this exact same position, but with a different move order. Okay, so again, keep in mind, I'm taking on d4 like way after the bishop has gone out. The only difference being that we played it slightly differently. And here he took with the knight. And this was a very interesting move. And this takes me out of my prep. Because if you go back to the beginning, what I was talking about is there's the Queen's Gambit accepted with c4, dc, knight f3, knight f6, e3, e6, bishop c4, a6, castles, c5. You see how his bishop never made it out? And if he takes with the pawn, it becomes the same thing because the bishop gets to g5, but if he takes with the knight, totally different game. And so this was a very interesting move to me. I was like, okay, well, I'm still going to go bishop e7. He developed his knight, and I castled, because that's what you should do, and now he played queen e2. And so here I'm thinking he's going to go rook d1 and rook c1, and I need to find a way to develop my queen side. Like, as you can see, he has so many pieces out. He's developed 5 pieces. I've barely developed anything. So he's slightly better. He's slightly better. I mean, I played a sideline of the Queen's Gambit declined. Now I need to figure out what to do. I can try to play for knight c6. Like, for example, I can play bishop d7, but after something like rook d1, I just thought it was worse. So I didn't do that. I thought about playing b5 as well, but it felt a little early for this move. It felt like he could just attack my rook. And after, like, rook a7, I just thought this looks a little bit goofy. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go queen a5. I'm going to move my queen off the center, and I'm going to attack his bishop. And I'm actually taking advantage of the bishop. Usually the bishop is back on c1, like I just showed you. And so here I thought bishop h4 was very natural. And my idea after bishop h4 was b5. He would move his bishop. And then I would play bishop b7, and I think I've equalized. I mean, I think I'm just playing here, and all my pieces got out. I am looking at e6 a bit, but I mean, I thought this was completely fine. And then he went bishop f4. So bishop f4 looks like a blunder. It looks like a blunder because it looks like I can fork him. Not exactly the case, because the knight moves away to attack my queen. I have to maintain defense of my pawn by going here. And he just very simply, he can go bishop g5 or bishop g3. And this pawn move just made his bishop way better. And I've actually played like this in Title Tuesday. So I learned in my classical game from my Title Tuesday games. Yeah, I've played in Blitz before a move like e5, and it just lands me in awful position. So this game, I was not touching it. Knight h5 is a very cool idea, defending my knight with my queen, but it loses. Otherwise, it would be a great move, because I get the bishop. It loses to a really nice interference move. And my queen no longer guards my knight, so if I take, my pawn gets pinned to my queen, which is terrible. But if I take the bishop, he takes with a check, and then he can take on f4. So I didn't play that, and I went here. And I thought this was very straightforward. I thought I was just going to play knight c6 and not double my pawns. The computer likes b5 right away, but I thought this was a very bad move after queen f3. So I thought queen f3. Oh, okay. So the computer, yeah. So queen, yeah, okay. Queen b6. And the queen is trapped if he takes my rook. Yeah. Had I seen that, then yeah, this might have been a very short game because I would have just played bishop b7. Did not see that. Did not want him to attack my rook, so I played bishop d7. He went here, and I went knight c6. And I thought, okay, I'm like finishing my development, and I don't have any problems. But I missed the move. I saw that he would play knight b3, and in my mind, I thought queen b6, and like, he has nothing. I mean, his knight is misplaced, but I had completely overlooked an idea of his, which sent me into a bit of a panic, which is this move e4, with a very straightforward idea of playing e4, e5. And again, I will remind you, e5 is a horrible move, terrible move. So once I saw that e4 was coming, I came up with a defensive solution, which during the game I was very happy with. I saw a very logical follow-up of moves. Old Gotham might have panicked if he had blundered e4. New Gotham also panicked, but then he put on his big boy pants. The computer thinks rook d8 and knight e8 is good, but this looked awful to me. I didn't like that I can't move any pieces. I didn't see what my next moves were. So instead of this, I went bishop e8. And I actually think this is a great move. I mean, I know the computer says it's 0.8, but my opponent's not 3600. And I had a very, the point is that I'm out of the way, but also I want to go knight d7. Like, I want to reroute my knight to the other side of the board and maybe trade his knight. And again, the more pieces I trade, the more I alleviate the pressure. And structurally, I'm fine. And we're battling for empty squares. We're battling for pawns and pieces. And he played this move a3, which felt a bit slow, but basically his major idea here is to chase my queen. So I would go queen b4, attacking his knight, and then we would repeat moves. Um, and, you know, if he goes here, then I was going to go queen c7. So he can't really ever do anything, which is why he played a3 to stop queen b4, which is a logical move. I played knight d7. And again, I thought he can chase my queen, like knight a4. So I was going to go queen a7, bishop e3, and queen b8. And I actually don't know how he prevents b5 now. Now he's in a lot of trouble, at least from the perspective that I'm going to equalize. He played rook c1, and I realized he didn't see my auxiliary idea. He didn't see my second idea. So at this point, I thought I had already equalized, and I thought I was going to start maybe taking over, because my original point was to trade. But again, he has all his pieces out, literally, and I'm kind of playing on the back rank, although my position is very solid, and I cover a bunch of important squares. There is this move, knight e5. And it's, in my opinion, better than the other knight, but the engine disagrees, of course. I didn't like that he could go knight a4 followed by knight c5. I didn't want to let his knight get to the c5 square. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it my way, which is this way, so that this knight could then go to c5. So I just basically trapped his bishop. And yes, I mean that in like a positional way. My camera's like loading the light back and forth. I apologize. Basically, I'm getting his bishop. And so once I start trading off his active pieces, I'm going to be able to equalize. And he was shaking his head a lot after this move, which obviously reinforced my confidence in my position. Like, I thought I was playing very smart. I was passive, but I thought I was making good decisions. So I played knight e5. He started shaking his head a lot, and I thought, okay, you know, don't get excited. I mean, you know, you're not better yet, but you know, life is good. Around here, I thought I had actually made a mistake. I thought in this position he could play knight d5. So for a second, I completely malfunctioned. The idea of this move is that after pawn takes, otherwise he takes my bishop, I'm attacked here and here, but I have a very nice defensive idea, otherwise I'm just straight up losing. The idea is, of course, if I move my knight, he takes my bishop, so I give up my knight. In fact, I give up both my knights, and I'm a pawn down, but this move equalizes, so my bishops come alive. He should go back to defend here, then I play bishop a4, and suddenly, out of nowhere, all my pieces are off the back rank, and I'm taking over, and he's got very bad coordination. So I saw knight d5, and I was like, okay, it doesn't work. Knight e5, he goes here. And so originally my plan here was queen c7, and I'm going to take the bishop. Like, bishop d3, I'm going to take the bishop. And I thought, I'm chilling. Suddenly I was like, wait a minute. I have no pieces out. Okay, I got his bishop, but he's threatening like knight d5. Well, the engine's not afraid. It says just go queen b8. I mean, queen b8 is a really difficult move to end your calculation on, because you just feel like, what am I doing? I mean, why am I putting all my pieces like this? But I have the bishops. I have the bishop pair. And traditional wisdom tells you, you know, you have something. But I don't know. This felt absurd to me to play like this. And, you know, he's just going to keep improving his position. He's going to play f4, e5. So finally, when he attacked me, I decided, you know what? How about knight c5? And what I had calculated here is I'm threatening knight takes bishop followed by queen takes knight. That's my threat. So I looked at, of course, him taking. I looked at knight to d5, which was a very interesting move. So pawn takes, bishop takes, and now he's targeting this. I go here, and we play, we battle, and the engine even likes queen h5 here, which is a crazy move. But the point is you hit the knight, and then you actually hit the other knight through the x-ray, so very complicated. And I also looked at this absurd move, knight a1, which was a wild move. Like, when I saw knight, I was calculating knight a1, like, wow, he's undeveloping his knight, and he's threatening to win my knight. So then I was looking at all sorts of stuff here, like I looked at knight c4, queen c6, knight d5, which is actually a good move, because after pawn takes, queen g6, bishop c5, rook c8, he has d6. So I was like looking at all sorts of very interesting lines. Knight a1 but I can also just play a5. So I can just stop him from playing his plan. We both missed a move here. We were analyzing afterward, and he told me he had seen this move, which is pretty gangster of him, because I did not see this move at all. Bishop d5. not knight d5, but bishop d5. And the point is that like he just brings the rook through the knight, but I cannot take. I just can't take. Bishop d5 is an absurd move. I didn't see it at all. I mean, which is bad. I mean, it's but I think just from a, you know, it's, the game's not over. I mean, we keep playing. The engine loves the position because basically he's gonna take, and take on b7, which is bad. That's real bad. And yeah, bishop d5 is an incredible move. I mean, I looked at knight a1. I looked at all sorts of stuff. He thought for a little while and took on c5. And by a little while, I mean 23 minutes. And I mean, I think bishop d5 was a bit above both of our pay grades, but I think afterward he told me, maybe not bishop d5, but he told me he looked at bishop e6, which is more forcing. You know, you take, and then he told me he was calculating, was this the position? Yeah, knight d5, something like this. If I take, then he has a fork. Bishop e3, maybe there's like knight e3, this type of stuff. Another international master has just walked in. Roommate and participant in the tournament. International master and manager of the Gotham Knights.
Get the merch. Get the merch.
Yeah, the merch is sold out, but, you know.
Support Gotham?
Yeah, support Gotham with limited edition merch of the single-time champions of the Pro Chess League. Yeah, but he didn't play bishop d5. Bishop d5. I mean, if he played it, I would have called Kramnik. He went here, which is kind of what I thought he was going to play. And then we got to this position, and I had seen this from a distance and thought, well, I won't lose. So, and, you know, we're completely solid. The worst is over. I felt like I was under pressure. Now he has some discovered attacks maybe on my queen, like knight d5 and stuff. So I just went queen b6. I actually thought I was playing for an advantage. Like I thought, I'm going to play bishop c6 and rook c8 and rook d8, and I'm going to be really happy. But then I realized after playing queen b6, he's just going to go queen d2 and trade queens. Not like that, like this. And that's what he did. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I guess we'll just make a draw. I went bishop c6, which is the best square for the bishop, plus it connects my rooks. That's the most important. Now, what's funny is that I think if you gave this position to like a 2600-2700 rated grandmaster, it also depends, I guess, on the situation. Like if this is some round of a tournament, or if this is like a head-to-head, or you're tired or whatever, you know, you play what I played in the game, which is you trade the rooks, and then, you know, you bring your king to the center and you trade all the rooks. If I was playing a lower rated player, maybe I obviously wouldn't do this, but I also wouldn't find myself in a position that looks like this. And I felt a little bit like annoyed, you know, like I have to go for this. But as it turns out, I could have actually maybe played it for a win. I can play, for example, g5, which I saw. It's a very standard idea when you have kind of a knight blockade like this. He would play f3 and then bring his king. And in a nutshell, the way black plays this for a win, if black wants to win, is plays it like this: king f8, king f2, and like king e7. And you just control the dark squares, and you're minus 0.1. Would I win this? I don't think so. We traded, and I offered him a draw. He traded my rook, king e3, king e7. He went to the center. You'll notice I haven't touched my pawns. It's very important in the endgame. You unless you like really have to, you kind of don't want to touch the pawns. You want to improve your position to the maximum. He's definitely a bit more active here, but his bishop is much worse than mine, and he has a bunch of pawns ready to be consumed by my bishop. So I got to this far in my head. I played my 30th move. There's a rule in this tournament. You have to play 30 moves before offering or agreeing to a draw, unless you repeat the position. So I offered him a draw. He didn't take it. I was like mildly annoyed at him, but I was like, okay, obviously I would also try to play this for a win. He went f4. Which makes sense. Like f4, you know, I go back, e5, you know, king e7 and g3, and suddenly all his pawns are on the right color and he's more active. I would probably draw this as well. But I realized he had completely missed the defensive resource here. I was very happy I saw this from a distance. I moved my knight to g4, attacking the pawn. Now e5 is very bad because two of his pawns hang. So h3, like knight anywhere, but let's just say knight h6, and if he plays g4, I'm just going to go chase his pawns down. So with my bishop. So I played knight g4. He did not go e5. He went here, and now he had completely missed this move e5. and this is by far the easiest. If he takes, now he's worse. Now I absolutely will try to play for a win because I leave him with a bad pawn. But he went here, which defends everything. Knight f6, f5, and I found this nice move, g6. There's still ways that he could lose. Of course, he can take, and it's completely symmetrical. He could go g4, which is what he did in the game, offered me a draw, and I accepted it. But he could, like, go here, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm going to try to win his pawns. But, yeah, obviously, you know, he did not want to do this. And we drew. We drew after 35 moves. So, I mean, you can't really ask for much more, and I didn't ask for much more. He's a very, very solid and annoying player to play. I was expecting this opening. I didn't really know. I decided maybe, you know, 30 minutes before the game to play this, and I played a6. I expected everything up until here. I didn't know this, and then I was on my own, and I thought the way I played was very logical. I thought every move flowed from the other. I completely misjudged this, but then I recovered very nicely. I put my bishop back, put my knight, rerouted, and, you know, look, like, yeah, there's this absurd bishop d5. I should have just, you know, moved my queen to c7. But overall, I'm pretty happy, not with the lighting on this camera, but with this game. So 1.5 out of 2. Seasoned watchers of chess will know that this recap is being recorded when round 3 is already done, spoiled by some very strong super grandmasters who also happen to be streamers. That's a joke. I'll post a sneak peek to that recap ahead of time on the Patreon. It will be much more in depth, and I will also talk about how I was literally using lessons that I've had over the last like 2 months to play these games, which I do think is instructive. So 1.5 out of 2 against the top 2 players in the section. I can't really ask for a better start. I mean, I could have beaten Pepe, but then Kramnik would have absolutely been called. I was under pressure this game, but I literally never felt like it was out of reach until I saw bishop d5 in the post game, and even then, that move is very difficult to find. So good. So far so good. I'm quite happy. I would be much happier if you don't have to subscribe to the Patreon. I'm not asking money equals happiness, but I'm participate in the Chess League Community Challenge so we can hit the rewards. And those are, if you have courses, you can participate. And if you don't, you can try the free samples. You might not be able to play Levi, but you will definitely be able to do some drills. So Community Challenge ends on June 15th. So does the tournament. Round number 2 is in the books. Round 3 will be posted early on Patreon, and all the other rounds will be posted a bit early on Patreon when available. Life is good. Playing well. Up 10 points. Get out of here.